Recording in progress.
Councilmember Belzak. Here. Councilmember Gilchrist. Here. Councilmember Hudson. Here. Vice Mayor Bedicavoli. Here. And Mayor Branscombe.
Had the pleasure of attending the celebration of Black Comrades Day. It was a wonderful celebration. All his friends and laughs and tears. It was a really wonderful celebration. I had my blue wristband playing a rodeo, celebrated Comrades, King of the Cowboys. And he always had rodeos, opening ceremony. Oftentimes, a parachuter coming out with a big flag, like 20 times oversized flag, dangling from his heel and shining. And so, Steve will say our pledge within the mind.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, do we have any changes to be done?
Not tonight, Mayor.
Mr. City Attorney, anything to report from fire? The council has nothing to report. Thank you, sir. We now move to community consent calendar report. Individuals wishing to address the city council concerning consent calendar items or matters not already on the agenda are invited to make full comments about the minutes. If you would like to comment or attend this meeting, please complete the speaker's card and return back to the city clerk. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to speak, please raise your hand via Zoom. When you call on the city clerk, you will address the council. Whether you're here in person or attending via Zoom, when called on, please be the clerk by report. You are requested to address your comments to the council, not to the audience. State law and council is not permitted to take any action, discussion, or any item not prepared on the first agenda. If you have the documentation about the student, please mail it to City Clerk, 526 C Street, Marysville, 959. And the clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to comment?
Not that I'm aware of, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll now move to the consent calendar. All matters on the consent.
the final extension for this negotiations to continue and be complete. I'm proposing that we complete it 60 days from now, which would be October 1st or September 30th. And at that time, we should be able to, or prior to, come back to you with a fully executed agreement with Armstrong. And that's where we're at right now. In terms of negotiations, we don't want to discuss here. That would be something that would be discussed in the closed session with staff and Armstrong Racing. They currently pay $5,000 a month rent plus $441 for utilities. Any questions?
Thank you. This matter is public comment.
Not tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Public comment is closed. Any comments or questions from the council? Jim, sir.
Is this the motorcycle park that's directly in front of town, or is that, or is this the other racetrack that we approved?
Mr. Schaad.
This is the one indoor park.
So it's
Just north.
how long have we had in negotiations with this?
Well, their original contract was dated 2012, and then that contract expired, and then they had an extension that expired in June 1st. And then so since June 1st is when we voted to go ahead and extend a 60-day period from that time period. And since then, we've been negotiating with them. They've had a couple of issues, personal issues that they've been dealing with, including illness, and it seems to be back on track at this point. So we project within the next, after a few weeks, we should be done negotiating.
No, I have a problem with that. I'm just curious which will work with here, so that answers that question.
Yeah.
So not going to negotiate what negotiation? I mean, we're hoping the resolution here in August.
Yes, we're getting really close.
That's all I'm
We're speaking directly with Dale Armstrong, who's the representative of the company, Armstrong Racing.
Thank you.
Any discussion details on that negotiation should be closed session.
Yes. Any other questions?
Sir.
On, when we continue to extend, will contract go retroactive back to the last contract?
That would be part of the negotiation. Right now, we're working to extend it as it is. And I do think, have that discussion on calendar.
Any further questions?
For those watching, so we have a closed session. The city-owned property, any discussions of the negotiation on city-owned property, real property, has to be a closed session. City attorney will not. We'll all further discussion to go through these things, so we're not trying to hide anything. It's a matter of law. Okay, so with this in mind, is there a motion or any further discussion or questions? We have a motion, second, and second, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, now we move into the agenda, there is a public hearing. And all matters in this section are formal public hearings and will be acted on individually. Members of the public are requested to speak. And in person, please, the speakers are to the city clerk, council. You're on via Zoom, raise your hand via Zoom, call upon the council. Whether in person or take via Zoom, please do it in further. If you have any documentation that you would like to issue, please mail it to the city clerk. The first matter of the hearing, item number 6, assessing the cost of the refuge disposal charge was public. The recommendation, pass a motion to adopt this manager's recommendation, pass a motion to adopt a resolution program to assess the cost of the disposal property. Charges to be secured actual collection in the same manner and at the same time as general taxes. City, Jennifer Chinsky, our finance director, please.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight we're bringing forth, this is an annual lead process that we go through on a yearly basis that we do for sewer and that we do for trash. At this time, we're covering our recommendations. So garbage service is managed by the city limits in Marysville, and therefore non-payment is not an option. So for that reason, because of state laws we have in Marysville municipal code, we're allowed to file lien on property for payments that are not made on that property. So the current list that we have that was attached is $77,487.11, and this is for 230 customers. I do want to let you know that this is a preliminary list that comes to council because we have had this approval to be able to put on the tax for the county. We actually have to have the final listing to the county by August 10th, and for that reason, the city works very closely with the college, says people make payments to make sure that we take them off this list. If they make the payment in time, they will not, they will be removed and they will no longer be put on the actual list for account. This is just a preliminary list at this time. We do also have a few representatives from ecology who have any questions or comments on the process or how it works. That can come up the next question that you may have. Is there any follow-up questions?
First, it's, we have some
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the city received an email from Mr. Gless in regards to asking a question. There should be an exemption for vacant homes and buildings that produced no waste and therefore pose no health risk or environmental risk. Is there any?
Believe that one comes to the sewer line or not trash.
That's actually towards the ecology and Western limits.
Thank you.
So those are both of the areas.
It might be advancing years or.
To paraphrase his request is there an exemption for vacant homes and buildings that produce no waste?
So I do have an answer that I received from college and follow that a little further. I received a response that as long as the property is vacant, we can close service and they are not charged. However, they still will be paying the monthly street sweeping fees, which is around $3.04 a month.
There's the answer. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Our next speaker will be Damona Kirkpatrick.
My name is Damona Kirkpatrick, and not knowing what has been discussed on the council's side of things, I am a business owner on the street of Marysville. I do have garbage service, and I have the Teamsters I've been open. And I do know there are a lot of businesses that do not have it. I believe the enforcement of this comes under code enforcement.
Am I supposed to give you this?
There was an ordinance in place where all businesses had to have garbage service. So what I have to say about that is not knowing any better. If these delinquent charges of businesses that perhaps didn't know, because there seems to be a lot of ordinances and city rules, if you will, that are complaint driven to be enforced. And for a lot of business owners, but not property owners, they might be unaware that they have to have this service. So my comment is that I asked the city council to look at that, because if there is a high charge placed upon the property owner and they decide to pass it on to their renter or leasing, then it could be detrimental to that business to have to take on that kind of cost or fine or charge.
So I asked that it be taken into consideration that perhaps it might be a thing where this day forward, these charges will be taken care of and paid in a timely manner to give the owners and renters of these places a chance to step up and do the right thing. That's really all I have to say.
I got it. So, it makes sense for that you're talking to businesses in Marysville, when a tenant moves in at the rent floor, they are unaware of possibly our code saying that business must have trash. The best of my knowledge, and that's a question of clarification, is that, I know through the business part of things, that when you go and apply for a business permit, you show it states that you need to have, trash, but I think why we're here tonight again is because of the fact that many of these people that are on this list are landlords, if you will, not necessarily tenants. And so we talked several times in the past, like 4 years that I've sat here, this thing every year, about possibly changing ordinance in the where automatically goes either in collections or straight to the landlords and not the tenants. So are you talking about the businesses, the tenants, those particular buildings don't understand that they're supposed to have trash, or the landlords?
I'm speaking that it could be a matter of either or.
Okay.
Not knowing, I can only deal with my business. I can say that I am not aware that my landlord knows that that is a requirement. But because I had to get a use permit from the city council when I opened, because as a second-hand or vintage store, I wasn't in the tenants of a shop or whatever was approved. So I found these things out when I got the business license, got my use permit. I found out what it was I needed. I also knew that I had to have a fire inspection. That's another subject. These things are not being enforced or followed. So I'm just saying that so many of the things were falling through the cracks of our understanding of what's expected of us, whether it be a property owner or a tenant. To please look at that and see if there is a situation where we could, as I said, go this day forward, perhaps not do it retroactively.
No, I completely agree with what you're saying right there. If something this falls in the cracks, because I happen to be a visitor that owns the land, so I found that out. But I know that in the past, I have opened an issue with tenants of businesses inside of Marysville that didn't have a clarification, or whether there was even a contract between the landlord and the tenant as to who's responsible for paying that. Now, we've got no control over the contract between the landlord and the city, but it's, I know that when I applied for my business almost a decade ago, that I had to inform the trash return option. As to how much trash and whether I had to negotiate. I don't understand what's going on with rights and acts, so if we have trash right there, I agree, we need to kind of fill it up and go from there. I know that this comes up every year, and rights and act, for instance, if you mind me again, this comes up every year. I know that other jurisdictions, when I was a landlord in Sacramento, that they had code and ordinance that you could not pass off trash or water to the tenant. It was always stuck with the landlord. And that was an ordinance within Sacramento County. Now, we had this robust conversation last year, and, representation with other things you got going on in your life. I still believe that's a good way to change our code and ordinance. Just to be plain and simple, so we don't run into this confusion between tenants and landlords. If we just consider changing the ordinance, where it follows directly towards the owner of the property. But I'm not saying change it. I agree. It's confusing and frustration when people are finding it out there. And especially if you're saying that some of the businesses don't have trash. I'm not a fan of people throwing my trash. So that's all I can see.
Which one's fun, everybody, you got a little. That's right.
No, I don't think it's.
I'm gonna ask this question kind of this way and that way, not there to the jury. I understand, I know, to the recall, My understanding is what you're saying is that it was dropped on you kind of by surprise. Yeah, I'm sorry.
First I'm talking to you.
I'm asking, I'm
That's
talking
the head
to
of the class, District, right there.
Without changing the subject too much, I find that again and again, I really feel it comes back to that problematic system of complaint-driven ordinance enforcement. Because so many people like me, don't know what the ordinance is that needs to be enforced. We don't know who's watching who. And so it can be very frustrating when I see personally, things not being done according to the law. And then here I am, I used to get in trouble for being a tattletale. So I tend to not want to be the one that goes in and knocks on the door. Excuse me, business A, they're not following the rules. And
So that's what your concern is, that everybody else is. Because I kind of got that in two parts. One, it's not being enforced and everybody has it. And two is that there's not knowledge that people know. And the reason I'm bringing that point up is somebody's been notified more than once before they get on this list, probably more than twice. Now that might not have been you, but your landlord, I'm guessing, and I'm gonna look out here at ecology for a minute, they were, at least the property owner was notified multiple times, right? Before they went on this list. So it wasn't that nobody knew. I mean, you may not have known, but the property owner.
I might add one thing to that. This list is generated every year for refuse collection. It has been for several years. So landlords in these buildings, if they have not been paying their bill, should know, it would be very ignorant of this process.
So I guess my point, Moni, is just somebody knew that that was due, and it would have been the landlord. Now, on your other point, I think you have a good point. If we all want to be on an equal playing ground, and everybody has to pay their share, I would venture to say, and we can ask ecology, but I would venture to say they would be glad to be charging the people that need to be, and that are probably walking over and using your service or someone else's service, because I have that happen. So,
well, mine keeps getting stolen, so I can't use mine most of the time.
oh,
But I did not know that list was published in a way the landowners would have access to that, because that's, I'm not the landowner.
What I'm saying is this cleaning process for refuge has been in place for many years. That's right.
Yes, that is correct.
So if they had not paid their bill last year, that landlord would have gotten the same notice. So the most it should be delinquent is.
And I'm real fond of that road because I think my landlord and I have a good relationship. And so if that is so, then my suggestion about not retroactively charging these things would not be a concern. It's just a matter of if they are not privy to these lists, and they don't have access to the information, or just ignorant of the process. I'm just asking leniency about the charges, just going a step forward and stuff. I know.
Good gentleman. Okay. It sounds like, I didn't, I'm not sure I understand all, but it sounds like the landlord certainly gets notice of these charges. And the tenant may or may not, depending on how they've arranged the mail to come. And then there is also the complication of a lease or rental agreement that could allocate the expense one place to the other. I would say expert is not a good step. And so I can see how this can end up between the cracks and get lost in the confusion. I guess it could be solved by saying that these charges under the capacity ordinance would override the leases that would say effectively that these charges are borne by the landlord, period, because we always know the landlord's address. We don't always know the tenant's.
So I agree with you, Mayor, is that, again, thank you for bringing this up, I appreciate that. It's obviously a bit of a conversation every year. You know, there are people open cracks with whatever, agreement they have between the landlord and the tenant and so forth, which is why Sutter County just dictated when I purchased that property, it was, you know, I had to pay for water, sewer, and trash, you know, one of the requesting it. It did say they're going to, we have not done that. I'm pretty sure I mentioned, you know, consideration that probably haven't, let's go further, you know, besides tonight's. I will also add to the fact that I looked at this list in my first year on council here. When I got this list, I spent half a day calling 30 names that I recognized. I'm hey, you're about to get a lien. You know, I'm all to consider this one. Then I started doing the second year, I realized, I told you last year. So in my third year, I just started, many of the same names I'm recognizing, and so forth, are on this list, and those are habitual individuals. It's unfortunate what's happened to you in your situation. And I think that needs to be rectified in simplicity. But this is just something that happens every year, and just this region, that's why it's got. No, so.
That's a question of our finance director. Now, let me understand this. The charge goes, charge against the property, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So there's no cash yet, so this is a cash flow issue for the trash collector, correct? Because they don't get the cash just because we get the property.
Correct, only.
They're delayed, they don't get the cash until we get the cash, which creates a bookkeeping nightmare for us. We make look like a bookkeeper, we're doing a cash through, right?
Correct.
We're going through the trouble of meeting property, and then we're going to the trouble of collecting it. Then we have to go to the trouble of passing it through to recollection. You know, there's a few people getting the wrong end of this thing, and the city's one of them.
We get paid for it.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
Well, how much?
I don't know what the exact.
But it's not enough.
It's $40.
Just enough that this getting very long. We had this discussion, we voted on it, we passed it. If we want to change it, that's another step. But we originally did that in, because we had that power that we had, and they did not. We said that we would do that for a nominal fee, like $40 per week. So there is some recovery on our part, but it was a mechanism that they didn't have that we have. And again, if we wanted to change that, I was in agreement with you originally that it should always go landowner or the property owner. But I believe that discussion was passed off as a no. But, so, just keeping a little bit of history for how it all came about. And again, how we go forward is one thing, but at this point, we had already discussed everything to do.
Stuart, the other comment?
Yeah, to the chair, I would like to mention something to Mr. Patrick. Any business owner and building owner in the commercial property, one of the things we can do is link up with our partnerships with both the Chamber of Commerce and the Marysville Business Alliance. We easily produce a chart or a list that goes along with having a business license to reiterate the responsibilities of the business owner and the landlord when it comes to collecting utilities and general. So we can have our partnerships with the NBA and the chamber be very clear about it. Because that's, you know, who would be most responsible? You know, the merchants, business alliances, etc. I don't see how the city should be responsible for bill collection.
Not responsible.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Councilman Bill.
Well, I think, just on that topic of the references, but it's in our, I believe our codes or our ordinances, and Councilman will speak to this, goes back probably more than 100 years, that requires property owners to have that service. So when we make it law, or when we make it law that they have to have it, that we take on a certain level of responsibility in managing that, right? That's why we have to be involved in this. But what my question is by the time this list gets to this point, where we're looking at liens on properties, and this is maybe a question for ecology, has this account already gone into a collection status? Is it like an either or option? See, it's a head shake here. Is it like an either or option? You either go down the lien route in order to try to retrieve it, or you go down the collection route and try to retrieve it, like a traditional collections. Assuming what it's saying. So, does this circumvent, and what's more efficient? I guess is what my question is. What's more efficient in actually getting the debt cleared up?
It is either or.
Okay.
Either or, you said?
Right, it's, in the mandatory areas, it's a lien, whereas in non-mandatory areas, it was collections.
Right.
Okay, so you got an expensive number because you got to park there.
Well, so understanding the lien process in real estate, right, it becomes a tax lien, which then takes an additional 5 years to enforce, right? So, I mean, in order to force that sale of that property in order to pay the unpaid debt, they can take up to 5 years. Legally, they can take up to 5 years, right? That's correct. So even when we set the lien on the property today, or in this next meeting, I'm not sure how that vote's going to go, that debt can sit out there in limbo for up to 5 years without being paid, and then the property has to go through a forced tax lien sale, and then you guys actually receive the debt that wasn't paid, right?
The questions I don't think we got the whole team up here. All right.
These will be for collection if a new owner purchased the property. They did not own it during the time that the lien was assessed. And if somebody has not paid their taxes, it still is not grounds that we make it pay, because if the tax lien does not pay for the taxes, we have to we don't that fund.
Right, so even though there's a person on the list and the property's been liened to the landlord, there's still a likelihood that you still will not even receive the payment via that, right? And same way with like the real estate taxes that we make in this one installment, that compounds over the course of 5 years until a tax sale can be forced. But then once that property sells, if you've got an outstanding debt with ecology on that landlord, and then that property sells 10, 15 years down the line, that lien is still in place and then you receive monies at that time. Oh, no.
These aren't recorded liens, they're
Okay.
assessed. So it never will cause a problem with the
Gotcha, okay. Or a property.
Correct.
A commercial property. So what's more, just out of curiosity, what do you think is more efficient, the collections process or lien process?
Doing the liens for as long as I have money.
Is it?
Yeah. Because most people will end up paying the bill before it goes to the staff, except everyone's subject to on the staff.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Jim, one question. Yeah, please, go ahead.
So I think you stated, no, please finish. You know, we do this, it's done every year. See on this subject matter, it's $77,000, and so forth. And I know I asked this question last year, and I'm just asking you for the record this year. Ecology works in other regions besides the Yuba-Sutter area. So historically, how is it handled in other areas? Or is the question, they go by real exchange within the region? Is that something you can answer? Like I know that ecology in Sacramento.
Right, ecology and you also does other services. So there are other ecology companies that do this well.
Do this exact same method as well. Do you know if we can do different? Like I suggested, Sacramento region does it. So can you attest to that, or do you have any knowledge or thoughts on that?
I recommend.
Sure.
Thank you.
Very, very quick. Now, when you get paid, there is a late charge attached to compensate you for the gap you have in your capital outlay.
Yes.
It's interesting. So, going on the finance background, which is getting more age as the days pass by, but this raises your cost of capital because you don't have as much cash as you should be working on.
could we take a look at the percentage you are actually doing this, since there is no.
So it's still an expense to you. Ends up being an expense to you, and ultimately everybody else pays it. That's fine. Thank you.
I wanted to address the comment regarding how you notice that that ordinance that required business owners to have a service. There were complaints regarding the use of the garbage can on beach. And in discussing that with, we call it Rigo, he is the one that actually told me that we have an ordinance that requires business owners to have refuse service. Did a little research and found that there are a few business owners on Beach Street and in that general area that are not subscribing to refuse collection. So that issue is above and beyond what we're talking about here. These are people that do not have a service and yet are in business in town. And so we will be looking at how we can motivate those businesses.
Literally trash it out there.
That was actually my question. With that being said, at this particular juncture, with all the information we shared, have another conversation for the day, but for all intents and purposes tonight, I need to do it.
Both we're still public comment.
I apologize.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council. Our next,
Thank you, Mr. Schaad. Good attention when you got something to say.
thank you, Council. Our next speaker will be Bruce Cockrell.
Speaker will be, welcome, sir.
All right, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm here because I received a bill from you for my property at 517 Fifth Street in Marysville. I received a bill from Ecology for, I believe, $550 for a service that they did not perform at that address. Now they sent the bill to you, and you're sending me a bill of $408 for the same service that was not performed. There was no garbage picked up at that address. And Ecology and you were trying to charge me for a service that wasn't done. And I'm here to protest that bill.
May I ask you a question, sir? Did you did not ever have a garbage can or?
I have trouble hearing your system here.
Well, I have trouble with these microphones, so I'm going to closer to it. Thank you. Did you ever have garbage cans provided to you provided to your building by the college?
I have a building with 3 addresses, 515, 517, and 523.
Oh, yeah, right over here.
And I have service at 515. I continually pay for it and use it. I had a tenant in 517, and he never put out the garbage. The garbage was never collected. The ecology never collected the garbage. When he was evicted, I had to clean out the place and get rid of the garbage myself. And I'm being charged for being double charged for service that they didn't provide. And I don't know how you can allow a company to charge for something that they don't do, and then try and collect a bill with them for the service that they do not provide.
It's
I
not
have more research. This is, I think, somewhat related to the comments they just made. I would need to get with Ecology and see if there are multiple addresses for a business.
I'm having trouble hearing what I'm talking about.
Yes. any louder, I'll try and get close to the microphone. I would like to do some research with Recology to see who they have been providing service to in those locations. I don't have an answer right now, but it could be an issue where there's multiple addresses with a single business that is receiving service for this one.
I have called Recology and disputed the bill and asked them if they picked up, and they said they did researches and they never got back to me. They say they have a record of the pickups. I know they pick up at my address, which is right next door. They missed 6 or 7 pickups at my address since the beginning of the year. And they still charge me, and they don't pick up my garbage either. So,
Sir, may I ask you a question, sir?
yes,
You gave the numerical numbers here. What was the name of the street?
pardon me?
The name of the street.
Fifth Street?
So,
Willow and Fifth Street?
Willow and Fifth, thank you. Question, of these 3 addresses, do you only have one trash can for all 3 addresses, or is there one trash can in front of every address?
The other 2 addresses are vacant at this time.
But is there a YCI trash can? Is there a trash can in front of those residents?
No, it's in the side on Willow Street.
So you got one trash can for 3 buildings?
It's one building with 3 units.
So, clarification, because I have one building that's 4 units, but I've got 4 green, and 4 blue. So I'm trying to figure out, what do you have, sir?
I have 2 cans, recycle and the garbage,
For one act?
for 515.
Okay.
The other 2 units are empty.
So they were never assigned trash cans, or they become missing?
Well, I've had tenants in one of them for 5 years, and they never had trash, and they never had a problem with it. They take their own trash to the dumpster.
Okay.
And part of the lease agreement or the rental agreement was that the renters pay the trash.
Okay.
I have a question of whoever knows the ordinances better than I do, is the rules, is each residential address required to have trash service? And you're not even yet, does anybody at the city manager know the answer to that?
I would not know residential addresses, but
Well, this is a commercial building, commercial unit.
They are commercial units. I thought they were apartments.
No, commercial, retail.
Commercial retail, okay, so we've got 3 of the 517, 515, something like that, for the district. And I don't think we don't have the answer to the problem right now.
we had a brief discussion very early on based on the comment from a constituent via letter or email regarding whether a vacant property is required to have service. And I think that's the question and answer. Earlier said it's not. So a business building is vacant and there's no need for refuse service. Does our ordinance require that? I would say it doesn't make a lot of sense. It does require that. I would also question as to whether the ordinance says business has to have service versus a property owner has to have service. Because we're interested in having service for a business that's occupying and creating revenue.
If I may, it sounds as though you're, you just misunderstanding. There's two different trains of thought on this. One you have and one Recology has. And it seems that should be resolved because we are the last resort. After that, it's not been resolved. After that, once it's been truly resolved, but if you've got a situation as you described it, you may not owe for the trash service you can charge for. And that needs to be clarified with Recology. That's not what we do. So that after you get through with them,
Is your matter finally disposed of by you, ecology, and that's us? Are we then the arbiters? I want to know the rules. Mr. City Attorney, are you following this? Do you have any comments?
Purpose of denying your protests. But what I'm missing is, I heard that there were 3 units, but at least 2 of them had people using. One that used the service and one that didn't use the service. The one that didn't use the service should still have been paying for it under your lease, and the property owner by default would also owe that, because to say, oh, well, I'll haul my own trash would gut a mandatory garbage service ordinance. So to say you had a tenant in one of your units who didn't use the service,
Well, they never picked it up.
it doesn't matter.
So
It doesn't matter. If the tenant was there and hauling it on their own somewhere, they still owed Recology for the service. That's why we have, please don't interrupt me. That's why we have a mandatory ordinance. Now, you have this 3rd unit, which you say was completely vacant. I don't know anything about that. You've established now 2 units, 2 people generating garbage, whether one of them took it somewhere else or not, at least 2 units should be paying the bill.
No, I don't understand what you're saying. So they come to pick up the garbage and charge? Your question was what? Recology never picked up the garbage, so they can charge me whether they pick it up or not. That's extortion. What the attorney just said is what my understanding was. If you have a tenant, every tenant is obliged to have garbage service and pay for it. Now, if that tenant wants to take his garbage on his own, he's still going to pay for the garbage service. We have mandatory garbage service for every occupied space in the city. It's as simple as that. But isn't it the responsibility of Recology to pick it up? They can refuse to pick it up and send charges out of service? It's the responsibility of the tenant or the landlord to pay for garbage service for occupied space. If the service is provided, but they don't provide the service, then why do you have to pay for it? Sir, you're arguing against the law. The law is that if it's occupied, you have to pay for the service. They didn't service it. Please. The garbage can was out, they never picked it up.
He's arguing.
So I'm required to pay for something they didn't provide? It doesn't matter. They're supposed to have garbage service. We can't all opt out. We can't opt out.
That's ridiculous. Thank you.
That's,
I have to pay for something they didn't provide. You go to a mechanic and get your car fixed, and he doesn't do anything, you still have to pay for the job?
It is in the community's best interest to have.
That's extortion and fraud.
Garbage service. It's a policy adopted by the city. Thank you.
I want to make a point of please. I understand his point, and I think he's got it right. Not that he can't pay, he should be paying no matter what. But the dispute between is Recology picking up his stamps or not, is not our dispute. That dispute is between he and Recology. And I don't know if he's approached you, whatever those facts. That dispute is not about the city. The city says only one thing, and that's to collect. And because there is an ordinance that says you need to pay.
Oh, with respect, Mr.
Sure.
What I understood him saying though was that, look, if I don't use garbage, if I don't want garbage service, I shouldn't have to pay for it.
I agree.
Every occupied unit has to pay for it.
I agree.
So that's on the parallel track.
I totally agree. But my understanding what he was saying was that the one that was using it, even though they wanted to haul it off and all of that, his point was even his own unit was not being picked up. I'm not saying he's right or wrong. What I'm saying is that dispute is not ours. The quality of service is between Recology and that.
I did not hear him say it. So you're saying
He said his didn't get picked up about 9 times since the beginning of the year.
Well,
So he's arguing.
that's a question of fact.
I totally agree, but that's my point, that is not our argument. Our argument is you haven't paid, you need to collect. The other argument is between Recology and the property. Right.
Just found on Vice Mayor's point, I believe, based on the garbage service, because I'm familiar with that ecology, keeps very close track of what locations they can refuse left at. It may even be automated with GPS at this point. But that is a dispute that ecology can easily resolve if the customer calls me. I don't know if they call that customer calls. Whether the garbage is picked up or not is an ecology issue that they can track very well. My experience is correct. Not paying for a business that's there is another issue, and I believe that's the business's obligation initially to pay for that to tenants. But we're going to move forward and lean the property owner if the tenant doesn't pay. And the third issue is that if they're in there and they're not even subscribing to the service, that becomes essentially a city issue that we have to enforce. And what we're seeing, to the mayor's point, is that yes, they could potentially haul their garbage off somewhere else. But the example on B Street is there are tenants that are likely placing their garbage into the street garbage cans that are meant for customers to use in one half the street. So the idea of the ordinance is really to control where the garbage goes. People aren't just operating a Wild West and taking the garbage.
I can repeat this source one more time. Not one of the people from Ecology can be voted on this question. It's a process question.
Shelby?
Thank you so much. My question is this: when someone moves out of a property and makes it vacant, do they, I know if I move, I cancel all my services. So I presume they cancel service.
They should.
They should. Now, say it's a rental unit, right? And say they move and they either don't care or by other neglect or oversight fail to inform you that they move. You continue to provide service. You might be looking at empty cans every time you come by.
Right, that's correct.
Okay, so that is a landlord issue, then the landlord has to be vigilant and make sure that if they lose a tenant, they also inform that there's means for this thing to be taken care of correctly. And and I'm not accusing this gentleman or anyone else of, well, there are people who do this. There are people who say, maybe you don't need your garbage service, so that like, yeah, we'll share this, whatever, right?
Right.
These things happen. But I wanted that question clarified. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and on the other side of the coin, if they come back and tell us, I'm so sorry, this has been vacant since this time, and they can show proof, whether it be an agreement that someone left or minimal water use, we will work with them and take those charges off.
Yeah, my final comment is that it is the community's best interest for every occupied space to have garbage service. It's a matter of health and safety.
Correct.
And so it's in the best interest of the community, and it's a requirement, and you can't dodge it. You can't say I'm taking my garbage myself because I'm not going to believe it. And it's, thank you, and pardon me, Vice Mayor Jim.
You asked it. You asked it. The only, exactly, because I know with properties I called and said tenants out, or they called and said they were out. I didn't see that.
It's close.
So you already asked the question.
The Constitution, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's see.
How's public comment going, Madam Clerk?
No further public comments for this item.
I hit that one pretty hard. Yes, there's none. Okay, public hearing is closed. Council, for comments or questions or motion to approve? Chair? Yes, sir.
I'm quite happy with what I see as taking care of my business.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second.
Second.
Move to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All of you got that? Yes. Thank you.
To the chair.
Thank you, and thank you, Ecology folks, for showing up. We're very helpful. Very helpful. Just to make it clear, what we just voted on was this list.
I didn't vote on taking any, this list, Ron Queen was voted. This list is the ones that we, to be elected.
The rules are the rules. Okay. The next item up for, and it's the same thing, only it's the sewer bill, right? So this is second verse, almost the same as the first. And the matter is item number 7 on the agenda. Assessing the cost of delinquent sewer disposal charges against properties. I'm hoping the rules are about the same here. Recommendation by management, represented by since here, that's what city is to pass a motion to not think appropriately. Let me ask people in the gallery. We've had comments about these microphones. Can you hear me speaking in this voice? Okay, really?
That's mine.
Well, we can always say this story. Anyway, the recommendation pass a motion to not appropriately discuss the cost of delinquent sewer disposal charges against properties and to transfer such delinquent charges to the secured tax roll for collection in the same manner and at the same time as general taxes of the city. Ms. Statistics.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this is basically the same line to Rockport, except this is for sewer service. Instead of using an outside service, the sewer actually responsible for the sewer service. We do our billing for a company called UMS, Utility Management Service, like in Chico. So they are the ones that have worked with us and produced this list. So this list is coming to you, and the current new total is $140,137.36 for 317 customers. I do want to say it is a small increase in the prior years. Last year, it was around 124,000, but that is also due to the fact that we brought our ordinance this last year that we will put all sewer bills in an owner's name, therefore we put them on a list. So that is why we do have an increase in prior years. In past years, if you were a tenant, you did not actually get assessed and you did not go on to the assessment list. So this is all owners of all those with sewer that we're bringing forth tonight. And again, we'll continue to work with UMS and city staff to reduce this list as people pay it. This is not the list that will go to the county. We'll take the final list around August 10th, and we'll continue to work that as people pay that even last minute, or we put them as a month, putting them in the home assessment.
So we're asked to pass a motion on a list that is not finalized?
We have
Is that appropriate, City Attorney?
The list is finalized, isn't it?
this list.
Yes.
So it's gonna be-
This list is the proposed list. We will change the list depending on what people pay.
Well, just a minute. Has everyone on the list not paid their bill as of right now?
As it's today, correct.
It's a final list. What you're saying is if they pay the bill, it'll come off?
Correct. We will not be submitting that name to the county. Unless it's
It's a delinquent current list, right?
Yes, it is.
All right.
It is a long-term.
We can't be a little more clear. Yes, it's the current delinquent list. If they pay before we submit, it won't.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for asking for clarification on there.
Moving forward, public hearing is now open for comments. Madam Clerk.
We have one public comment for this item so far. Again, from Mr. Glass, asking, is there any exemption for vacant homes and buildings that produce no waste and therefore pose no health risk or environmental risk?
Yeah, Jim, this is let's ask the person that. Question.
So for this one, if the property is truly vacant, UMS will advise them to turn off the domestic water service. And once that happens, then we do remove them off the list. Because if you have water sewer service, it's assumed you have sewer service because we cannot meter sewer. If it is a commercial customer though, however, we can ask them that they can turn off the irrigation meter because that does not affect a sewer meter, not irrigation does not affect the sewer bill. So yes, if they can prove that our water is shut off, then yes, we will turn off.
So that is the answer to the question, correct? So we have this question and we have the answer, okay? Any other public comment?
No further speakers.
Thank you, public hearing closed. Sir?
No, that was, she answered,
Okay, any other questions or comments from the council? Or Matt, you have a motion to approve? I have a motion to approve. Motion approved.
Second.
And second, and all in favor?
Aye.
That was good. Thank you. Okay, we now move on. Committee appointments. Councilman Gilchrist, are you ready to be appointed to the public committee?
I am ready, Mr. Mayor.
Just want to make sure. We have two committee appointments. One is to the Thunder River Air Quality Management District. And the other to the Southern Yuba Homeless Consortium. Some of the votes that you said. Are we required to appoint members to each of those? I know that I think the Thunder River Air Quality Management District, we are by between jurisdictions required to appoint. What about the Southern Yuba Homeless Consortium? Is that voluntary or required?
Required.
What?
Required via the MOU that we've signed.
So the city signed a memorandum of understanding.
Correct.
Is the city bound by that and the city opt out?
I would defer to Chief for further explanation.
Okay. Well, right now we're obliged. Okay. And is it an MOU on the Thunder River or is that a different arrangement?
No MOU that I am aware of. I believe that's just a contractual for our location within the district.
Okay. Want to clarify. Anyway, the appointments require council approval. Okay. Appointment is, the nomination is for Councilman Stuart Gilchrist to be appointed to each of those organizations as city of Marysville representative. Is there any comments or questions? Do we have a motion? Move to approve. Motion approved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you very much. Let's see. Committee reports. Let's go. We got Vice Mayor.
Not sure I have any meetings. There's some new report. Go on with that.
I do, only meeting, nothing for this.
Thanks. Councilman Gilchrist.
No committee meetings, so I have nothing to report. Thank you.
I had 4, and then after Rory, committee meetings recently, and seems like a lot of committees are taking the summer break.
Madam Clerk, any council reports? Mr. Sheriff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. All council members, as well as Chief Sachs, received a copy of a letter from Mr. David Spurbeck dating 7/18/2022 in your inbox here at City Hall.
Thank you. City Manager.
You take the report. First of all, Dutch Brothers, project moving right along, and I believe we have it permitted. Another project there in the hotel, and also we're involved in another discussion and double tour. Looks like they're making some cool progress on that. On some designs for the facility. Long drug building. Had been cleaned up fairly well. The lighter, the front of the building looks decent. There's a camera system out. So very happy with that. With that, I noticed that some other businesses in the area have similar difficulties that we'll be addressing code violation, as well as starting to address code violation in and around that. More make hear that constituents. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
To the chair, one quick question on the letters that we received. I just had one question. Were those passed on to the police department?
The letters on the property?
Just for that last.
Yes.
Those were passed on.
Okay, in terms of comments or requests, Councilman Moses.
I want to thank and compliment Sapphire Marketing and Beach Festival and our rock casino for supporting our music venue. Bruce did a good job and leading the charge on that. And a ton of great reports about the weekend of Beach Festival. So I'm sure we'll all comment on that. And great tribute to Cotton. I wasn't able to make it. Yeah. And the rodeo and I think that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sapphire Marketing again, City Manager, all staff. Beach Festival was fantastic, had a blast. Can't wait for hearing the numbers from Sapphire. Public Works especially, Fire Department, Police Department, it's amazing.
We were shocked how short. So, I do. I have phenomenal time at the Beach Festival. I want to thank Public Works did a great job, and also shout out to Marysville PD. Did it single-handedly this time, and we didn't have our mutual agreement with other departments coming to help out like we had in the past. And, whatever that may be, I'll just look very blue up there. So it's kind of nice to see we all taken care of. So thank you for that extra work. The fire department had a phenomenal each on the booth. And I spent 20 years in that booth and you never miss it. So good job. It was weird stuff. Sapphire did a phenomenal job. And I heard from many people that it was one of the best ones they'd seen in a long time. The amount of vendors they have and so forth. So that's it. I guess on that. A couple other little things. Future meetings. I'm going to get I think what you speak to it now, Mr. City Manager. Where we stand with our street lights.
It's not only good.
No, but it's I'd like to see
street light repair.
Thank you, street light repair. I also like to.
I can tell you, we're making progress. Next time I'll bring up this. Find one program.
Also, I'd like to take on a little more serious consideration. It was a robust conversation we had about YCI. And every year that I've sat up here, we've had that almost exact conversation that have been on the diets. It's kind of one of those things, and those we brought up to the vote last year. I would really like to see a report from the city on just how much personnel time is spent working with, doing this whole building process with YCI and so forth. And we know that's already got a cost of $40 per 200 and some odd items. Shinsky, was it 200, 300 people around that?
It was two something.
You did 5 minutes,
Yeah.
I may spend a total of max 8 hours doing sewer and trash lanes for the entire year.
So, I mean, if it's less than 10 hours in that case,
It's very hit and miss on my.
it could be potentially a new issue, but the same thing happens every year. And, you know, we made concessions with the sewer that it went straight to the landlord that owns it. I'm not sure why we could have a conversation in the future that, just for simplicity purposes, that the bill goes straight to the landlord, regardless of whether it's a residence or a business, and if that landlord wants to go into agreement with their tenant, then they can take care of it on their own, as to who's going to pay for it. But, you know, the sewer helps more than the trash, but regardless, there's a lot of confusion and so forth, and it's kind of like, I'd like to see if we can just get this straightened up, because we have the same, not the same, we have similar conversation the past 4 times I've had this conversation. So maybe we can bring that up for possibility and putting that for conversation and potential organization changing the rates. That's all I got. Thank you very much. Oh, sure. Appreciate this.
Vice Chair.
Thanks. Obviously, I work real close with Sapphire at Beach Up Music, and they did a great job. I want to thank Hard Rock. They gave $16,000 to support all of the music. We were able to upgrade all the stages lighting. We added a band or two, and we're going to be able to do that next year. I want to thank Chris. I had one, even though he was not playing chief that day. I had one incident with the homeless that they took care of immediately. And Public Works, we had a problem with electricity, which put me in a panic at one of the stages. And they responded almost immediately, and we got on the phone. So thank you. And just comment, I agree with you on that. They have not been YSDI for about 2 years. But when we have that discussion, I will be your corner.
I can see that problem.
Thank you. I do have things to chat about, and in no particular order. Actually, there's a particular order on that as well. We're going and this is not repeating the prior discussion on trash pickup. And I come from a generation where we used to have a trash can down in a hole behind our house. And the trash person would come into the backyard, pull that thing up, take it out, and break it back. And there's different levels of service, different kinds. And when you cut your lawn, you put the lawn out and cut it down the street, and someone came by and picked them up. It's different then. Now, so we get 3 cans, right? We get a blue can, a green can, and a gray can. And I understand those are not to be put out until the night before or the day before, and then taken back to Iowa. They're supposed to be, I understand they're supposed to be out of view of the street. That's my understanding. I don't know if
The business. In a business, they are supposed to be behind a closure with our current limits. But that business is not necessarily residential.
I thought it was residential too.
Could be wrong. Could be wrong.
I don't think you live on the street. I think you have to be pulled off on the street in your driveway or on your property or something.
That would be interesting to know. I had been told one thing and then another, that they're supposed to be also on the side.
We will find that. Some municipalities do require them to come
because even just pulled up on the curb, the trash is up in the neighborhood with those things out. And it's about property values, you're being disrespectful to, my sense of this is, it's disrespectful to neighbors, and it is a negative influence on property values throughout the city. You drive through a city, you see trash cans all over the place, start taking trash. That'd be interesting to look into. I think someone's on the mics over here, mics in the trash there.
We will be continuing enforcement activities with that, and I expect that to be.
It's a case, they're not the only case, and I'm not pointing at anybody in the room. This is just a situation where the businesses who have dumpsters don't get a big enough dumpster, and they don't keep them on. Now, if you have a dumpster, you better keep them on, because the homeless are going to come through, rifle shooters go all over the place, which is what happens in Mountain Mike's. It's a combination, and I know you're on it. Combination of not a big enough dumpster and the homeless trashing it all over the place. It's terrible. I want to share comments on each festival. I was amazed that at that temperature, that was a huge crowd. We had booths from First Street all the way to 6th Street, and people all over the place, and people seemed to be having a wonderful time. I know I did. It was great. We'll tell Marysville. Gentleman, I've been Lance Robbins is here, and City Manager and I, and had breakfast with Lance last Wednesday morning, and this is meaningful. I hope it's meaningful. He had with him his Chief Operating Officer from New York City, and he's based in New York City. He had a staffer from Los Angeles there, and then also from New York City, a consultant on decor and what have you. And I made a point of saying to him, words are wonderful because we've got a lot of words. We talk about this a lot. The needs are defined, and this is approaching a peak, having full staff there. And then it got even more interesting, or more positive, at least in my mind. I followed them to the building and got a little bit to effect very thoroughly. And they were meeting their elevator subcontractor to make plans for the elevator, a new elevator, because there's no longer an elevator in the shaft, and have that elevator go up to the roof for a rooftop bar. So they're making specific plans. Now, is that getting a building permit and showing plans? They do have drawings of rooms. And the other thing that pleased me about it, I was always worried that the rooms in the hotel have those ceilings. They're over 9 feet. They're big, high ceilings, and so I was encouraged. But then I'm an optimist. Let's see what really happens. But those were an optimistic sequence of events. And wanted to share them, and we're all rooting for something to happen there. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, August 16th, first Tuesday of the month, meeting in August. Now the second meeting is the recess. And August 16th will be at the usual 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, you have those two.
Thank you, Mayor. After the closed session, the City Council will leave the council chambers and the meeting will be adjourned by operation of law due to lack of a quorum. If there's any reportable closed session action, a report will be made at the beginning of the next regular council meeting. I ask that after the closed session item descriptions are read by the mayor, that all members of council, applicable consultants, and staff join the closed session meeting. Thank you.
It is now time for public comment on the items that will be discussed in closed session. The first item, pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Conference of Labor Negotiators Jim Schaad and Patrick Clark regarding the following bargaining: Teamsters, Marysville Police Officers Association, sworn and non-sworn, Marysville Firefighter Association, and mid-management executive team. The next item is conference with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 595.6.9 regarding existing litigation. Paragraph 1 of subdivision B of that code section. Name of the case, City of Marysville versus California Department of Transportation et al. For a petition for writ of mandate in Yuba County Superior Court. Next item, conference with real property negotiator Jim Schaad regarding city-owned property on Beach Street located between 12th and 14th. Negotiating parties are listed in alphabetical order. The first is American Hospitality Services, Inc. The second is Teamsters Properties, Inc. And the third is Filbers and Noyan Properties. And it is under negotiation regarding price and other terms. And there were no public comment on that.
Not tonight, Mayor.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe, with lessons, in person and personalized. Instruments including guitars and amps, horns, strings for instruments, and a myriad of music and sound equipment. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe.